All right. Cool. Welcome everybody to this webinar about the new Tarmac that we're going to present to you guys today. Can we just have a check that my audio is working? It is good. Cool. I invited Mr. Cameron Piper, who is the product manager of the new Tarmac, to join us and speak about the new bike to you guys. We'll take questions throughout. I think in the chat has worked pretty good so far. So you can just type those questions you have throughout the presentation and we'll answer them when we find it suitable. And then we'll leave some time at the end as well to answer some questions. Cool. Some more people are dropping in, but I think it's 7:30, so we should get started. Cam, do you want to share your screen?
Awesome. So first of all, thank you for having me here today to talk to you about some exciting new product we have coming. We really appreciate your support and your excitement for the new product we have coming in the next week here. So as Rasmus just mentioned, as we go through the presentation, if you guys have questions, I'm more than happy to make this more of a discussion. So pop those questions into either the chat or just speak up and we'll take a pause and answer whatever questions you might have. So let's get things going. So to start, a quick note on that is the embargo for this product is next Tuesday, so July 28th. It's 9 a.m. Pacific time. So for everyone over there, that's, I believe, 5 p.m. Rasmus, can you confirm that?
So 6 p.m. 18 o'clock.
Perfect. And as we go through too, if I'm speaking too quickly or there needs to be a translation, just pop in and we'll keep it going.
Sure.
So before we speak about the new stuff, I'm just going to walk through pretty quickly some historical pieces for the company itself. And since 1974, when Specialized started, Mike has always been very involved with wanting to push our products further, and a big part of that meant the introduction into top-level racing, and that started with the E5 in 2002. So we really learned what it meant to be performing at this top level, especially with athletes like Mario Cipollini, where we had the E5 take us to some world championship titles and winning Milan-San Remo, and it started off a couple of decade-long obsession really with creating the best possible performance product in road cycling. And as we moved through the generations of Tarmac with the SL2 is when we really started to understand and work progressively with our athletes to get an idea for what each athlete needs out of that bike itself. And the carbon fiber development at that time was still very new, and the SL2 was one of those first complete carbon road bikes. And we really relied on the feedback from athletes like Tom Boonen, who was able to speak to exactly what he was feeling in the frame itself. That allowed us to then take the next step into what eventually will become the Rider First engineering story that we'll speak to a little bit later as well. Because we realized with smaller riders like Paolo Bettini, they were putting different forces into that frame and had different expectations for how that bike should handle. And in 2011, we launched the Venge, which was filling a need where we saw that athletes really wanted something that was able to provide a performance benefit when it comes to aerodynamics. We had our sprinters and new breakaway artists who were always out there and needed that extra advantage when it came to the aero performance of a frame itself. And with the launch of the Venge in 2011, it saw initial success right away on launch day with a win at Milan-San Remo under Matt Goss, and then eventually later that year winning its first world championship title with Mark Cavendish. And in 2014, we launched the Tarmac SL7, and this was one of the first platforms that was truly built around the idea of rider-first engineering, which takes the idea that each rider, regardless of their size or their frame size, expects something unique from the bike itself. And it was an approach that really helped us to push the overall legendary Tarmac ride quality that everyone expects up until today. And this bike was, in particular, one of the probably the most winningest specialized road bikes that we've ever had, winning Tour de France, Vuelta, World Championships, and even started to show the dedication that we have to disc brakes with one of the first race disc brake platforms available on the market. Then 1 year later, we took Aero's everything to the next level with developing a road bike that was entirely designed around aero performance and really looking at every piece of the frame to say how we can maximize that potential, especially with having the ability to design that entire bike within our own in-house wind tunnel here in Morgan Hill, California. And this bike as well has seen so much success across the world tour, winning world championships, and also being the first disc brake bike to win a stage on the world tour stage a couple of years ago. And now with where we're at today and the Tarmac SL6, it was a bike that really started to look at the expectations from a rider perspective and what they needed to be able to perform on really any course to create the most complete race bike. And we created something that was lighter weight, still had the legendary handling, but also had the aero benefit that we had learned so much from the Venge bias. And this bike also has seen plenty of success throughout World Tour racing, and also being the first disc brake bike to win a World Championship title under Anna van der Breggen, as well as numerous success at the Tour de France, or additional success with Peter Sagan winning some World Championship titles. And then the current Venge. So this was the next step in our understanding of aerodynamics and creating a complete race bike, where we were able to draw 450 grams from the Venge bias to create a bike that was not only faster, but now lighter weight, still embodying the idea of performance product and seeing plenty of success across the World Tour stage. So where we stand today, we have a rider like Peter Sagan, who's aggressive sprinting style, with Julian Alaphilippe, who focuses more on his puncher or climbing style. And we could say that if we took these two riders and combined them into one rider, they would probably be the best rider on the planet. But unfortunately, that's not something that we can do. So instead, we can look at their two tools, or their bikes for racing, with the Tarmac SL6 and the Venge, and could say, where would that take us? And that is the all-new Tarmac SL7, which is truly one bike to rule them all. It's putting an end to compromises, allowing riders to climb on the lightest bike that the rules allow, while still sprinting on the fastest, all with the legendary Tarmac ride handling. And it's almost like we took those two riders, the climbing, attacking style of Julian Alaphilippe and Peter Sagan's aggressive power, and made it into a single bike with no weaknesses. And now, at this point, for any rider on this bike, the only choice you have to make is when to attack. So typically we do this presentation with someone else, so I'm not going to read my own quote, but
I will, Cam, because I think it's such a good quote.
Okay, go for it.
So what Cam told us about road bikes in general, he told us, no matter how fast the Venge was, no matter how well the SL6 handled in the mountains, we knew choosing between the two meant our riders had to make compromises on race day. We just weren't okay with that. That's where the new SL7 came from. We were simply unwilling to allow those compromises anymore. No more compromises, Cam. Just like you.
Part of the game. All right. So, aero, stiff, and light, pick three. In the past, riders really had to choose if they wanted the aero bike or if they wanted a lightweight bike. And since we've been innovating in product for so many years now and really developing the Tarmac platform for over 2 decades, we knew that it was finally time to push our engineers and to use all the resources we have available to us to deliver the fastest bike in the peloton that's still built at the UCI weight limit. So at this point now, we truly believe that if you're riding one bike to climb and then picking a separate bike for sprinting, then that idea is old-fashioned and is not required anymore. And a big reason behind this is if you look at a lot of the demanding course profiles for racing these days, nothing is straightforward or easy. The Tour de France, for example, last year had the most climbing out of the past 8 editions with over 52,000 meters of climbing just in the 21 stages. And even during that race, Julian Alaphilippe spent 14 days in yellow while riding a Tarmac SL6. But then if you fast forwarded 1 month later in the Vuelta, we had the fastest stage over 200 kilometers ever recorded, where that stage was ultimately won on a bench. So the idea that you have a luxury of choosing between 2 different bikes specific to the stage, that's not really a luxury anymore for riders. It's now a sacrifice because they're having to give something up by choosing one of those bikes. Anything lighter is illegal, where our riders and racers are defined by the UCI rules and regulations. There's a weight limit for what you need to be able to ride once you get to the start line. So building something that's significantly lighter than that doesn't actually help the rider because you're just going to be adding weight. So at this point now, being able to create a bike that has all the same speed at 6.7 kilograms out of the box is a huge advantage. And in doing so, we really looked at the frame and limited the surface area and strategically reduced the wall thickness where we could to create a painted frame that's 800 grams in our Factor 12R layup for the S-Works frames. The fastest bike on every road. So we targeted the tube shapes that truly impact the aero performance of the frame itself, whether that's your fork blades, your head tube, your seat stays or seat tubes, all using shapes from our Free-Flow shape library. So then pair those with the fastest components in the industry, whether that's the Aerofly 2 bars or the new Revolver Pede CLX wheels. We were able to create a bike that out of the box is 45 seconds faster than the Tarmac SL6 over 40 kilometers. And still the true DNA of the Tarmac platform is how well this bike actually handles, and it continues to set the bar. You know, the telepathic response of the bars, the magic of the pedals, the comfort to really stay fresh over hundreds of kilometers. The Tarmac SL7 raises that bar yet again, becoming the most balanced Tarmac we've ever made, and the greatest example of the rider-first methodology that we've ever made, allowing all riders to enjoy that same experience. So where does that stack us up in some ways? If you look at this list of different frames, some of these were considered to be the lightweight climbing bikes or the most aero bikes, or in some ways the most complete race bike. But now looking at this, it's really easy to tell that we're really resetting the bar on what it means to create a lightweight bike that's still built at the UCI weight limit and a package that's as aero as it can be. And the design philosophy around that was really trying to pair both the idea of aerodynamic performance as well as the weight of the entire bike system to shoot for this area of the chart that's kind of no compromises, or it's the holy grail of a race bike. And that's something that we're able to achieve with the new Tarmac SL7. And a big push behind this was devoting all of the possible resources to where it matters the most. And some of that is thinking beyond gender. You know, there's likely more of a difference between 2 male cyclists than there are between a male and a female. So gender alone doesn't provide us enough data to say that we need to specialize 2 different frames for a specific gender. And at this point now, it's time for us to go beyond gender and ensure that we're creating the best possible bike for every rider, regardless of that. And there's no other bike that's more influenced than our racers than the Tarmac. It's a 2-decade-long collaboration with some of the world's best riders in the peloton to really create a new bike that redefines what it means to create a modern race bike. We have a quote here from Ricardo, who's the Dakota Quickstep technical director. And shortly after seeing this new tarmac a little over a year ago, he said to us, a bike that can combine the best of the tarmac and the best of the bench, that's a dream for everybody. Knowing that the performance is not compromised, it's the perfect scenario. So not only do the riders now have the mentality that they're rolling to the start line with the best possible product with no compromises, but the mechanics and the staff know that whatever they're providing their riders is giving them the best chance that they need to succeed. So it's easy for me as a product manager to write some pretty aggressive targets and ask the engineers to do it, but we're doing something that no other manufacturer has been able to achieve, creating a bike that's as fast as anything on the road, but still at the UCI weight limit, and more or less putting an end to the idea that we need to have two separate bikes. Let's talk through a little bit about how that actually happened. And a big piece of that was the new shape of speed. So the new shape of speed is our doctrine that air advantage doesn't need to come at the expense of weight or ride quality. And the new tarmac is the ultimate expression of this, because we refine the shapes from our free foil shape library to optimize around the overall aero performance, the weight, and then the stiffness of those shapes, and put them in the places where they matter the most on the frame. So if we're focusing on aero performance, those fork blades, head tube, seat stays, seat tube, are really optimized around the aero performance, but still taking into consideration their overall impact, weight, and stiffness. And then a tube like the down tube, where it can be more optimized around the weight and the ride quality, we focus more on that versus the aero performance, where it doesn't add much aero penalty or benefit.
And isn't this picture, that's my favorite picture. It's just beautiful. That new shape of speed, it's a beautiful shape.
Beautiful and super clean. We'll talk about how we got to the super clean part, but creating the Tarmac SL7 was an exercise in patience. This project started prior to even releasing the Tarmac SL6. Every feature that we created in this new frame was pushed to the limit to ensure we were optimizing around aero, weight, and stiffness without harming the other features of the bike. And it was quite literally a gram by gram battle. Thankful for all the tools that we have here at our disposal, whether it's our wind tunnel, test labs around the world, a dedicated team of engineers who are all able to utilize supercomputing power with CFD and FEA analysis on the computer to run virtually tens of thousands of calculations just to determine the orientation of a specific ply or piece of carbon fiber on the frame, where there's just under 600 plies on one frame itself. And our engineer, Ian, had said, when we push each of these features as far as we can without compromising another, it's our years of experience, our incredible resources that let us deliver a bike as light as the rules allow, yet in a package as aero as anything else on the road, that still delivers the legendary ride quality and handling the Tarmac is known for. And rider first engineered, we truly looked at exactly where all the forces in the frame are being pushed during real world testing. Rider first engineering allows us to ensure the optimal balance of stiffness, weight, and ride quality across all of our frame sizes, ensuring that all riders have the same legendary Tarmac experience. And with the new Tarmac ranging in sizes from 44 to 61, this is a big challenge for us to ensure that each and every one of those riders has that same experience. We began with our huge database of real-world telemetry data and created prototype frame sets that married Venge level stiffness numbers with a Tarmac SL6 compliance and responsiveness, and then brought these frames to the world's best athletes, whether they're on Bulls Dolmans or Hansgrohe, Dakota Quickstep, for them to validate and tell us that we have now created something that is the fastest and best handling Tarmac ever for every rider. Another thing to note too is that the Tarmac geometry for the new Tarmac SL7 maintains the same fit and handling geometry as both the Venge and the Tarmac SL6. So once you use your headset cover, the mounting point for the stem is identical across all three of those platforms, making it really easy to transition over to this new platform. and integration for speed, something that really helps this bike have that striking front end view, where we took the Aerofly 2 bar and redesigned the Venge stem to create the all new Tarmac stem, which reduced the stem weight by about 45 grams and still improved the cable routing to allow for the completely hidden and integrated cables, yet still allowing a rider to change their fit if they need to without having to recable the entire front end. So it's a big improvement there. And then lastly, the new Roval Rapide CLX wheels, which take the aero performance of the Roval CLX 64 and the lightweight handling of the CLX 32s, and then also build in some new crosswind stability and handling features from the difference in profile shapes from front to rear to create a wheel set that truly has no compromises, both lightweight and aerodynamic, but still providing an overall positive impact to handling on the new Tarmac SL7. So a couple quick notes on where this Tarmac is a significant improvement and where it will allow us to really win. You know, this isn't just a faster Tarmac. This is a new performance product. It's something to think about and something that riders will truly experience when they get out on the bike itself. There's no real compromises now, because all of the brands and manufacturers are more or less forcing a rider to pick a bike and have some sort of compromise when it comes to race product, and that's no longer the case with the Tarmac SL7. And really, the rider first engineered story is very important so that every rider feels like their bike is performing as it should, versus the traditional thought of just scaling tube shapes in the past. And then ultimately, you know, the UCI minimum weight at an everyday rideable build, so out of the box, again, 6.7 kilograms for that S-Works Shimano Dura-Ace Di2 build that we have. So one bike to the rule them all. This is the end of the climbing bike, or the end of the aero bike. It's that idea is now old-fashioned, and we have the technical ability and know-how at Specialized to create something that really is the fastest bike on the road, still built at that lightweight UCI weight limit, all in a single package. And anything else would be forcing our riders to make a compromise on race day, and we weren't okay with that anymore. So I'm going to talk through a couple quick features about some of the models in the line, and we'll start off with the S-Works Tarmac Shimano Dura-Ace Di2, and this is, again, that bike that out of the box is 6.7 kilograms, and that's thankful to the Fax 12R frame set that comes with this model, and the completely integrated build of the Aerofly 2 bars, S-Works Tarmac stem, the Roval Rapide CLX wheels. And then a unique feature here is on the crankset, we have a dual-sided power meter, which adapts the power pods from the carbon power cranks onto this new Dura-Ace crankset, which allows riders to then still use the Power Cranks app and get all the metrics and data that they need for training and racing. On the S-Works Tarmac SRAM Red ETAP Axis model, this is still, again, the fully integrated build. But one thing to note here is you can see on the seat post now, there is no plastic cover behind the post itself. So we adapted the location from the Venge to put the A-junction box for Shimano builds at the top of the post, which requires another cover on the outside of the post. But for all other builds, whether it's ETAP or a mechanical build, there is a flat back-off cover that just seamlessly integrates with your seat post and provides a sleek look for any of those builds. And then a more progressive build here, the Tarmac Pro SRAM Force ETAP Axis 1x group that shows kind of the final features and things of the new frame, such as a removable front derailleur hanger. So there's, across all of the models, that front derailleur hanger is removable if riders choose to go to a 1x build, creating a sleek and seamless integration. And this new Force ETAP Axis group, which now has a 1036 cassette, is paired with the 46 tooth chainring that has a Cork power meter as well. giving riders the same range that we would see or have typically spec'd in the past with Venge, for example. So this 1x drivetrain has the same gear range as a typical mid-compact 5236 and 1128 in the rear, yet in a simple and quiet 1x drivetrain. So it's a pretty exciting model. This is the FACT 10R frame set, meaning it's the second tier frame set, but still shares the same external shape. So your aero performance is the same. Our stiffness and ride quality metrics were all matched as well, but with just a small weight add of only 120 grams compared to the FACT 12R layup. So still much lighter than where we currently are with our FACT 10R layup for SL6, all now in a new, faster package. There's a question on the BB. So the BB is no longer BB30. It is a BSA threaded bottom bracket across all of our models now. There's also a question about the real loss of watts compared to existing generation Venge. The one thing to think about when it comes to speed, there's obviously the complete package. So taking into account all of the attributes, whether it's the weight, the aero performance, and then your ride handling and responsiveness. And then there's also the aero difference. So this new Tarmac SL7, aerodynamically, there is a small difference. It's about 2.5 watts over at 40 kilometers an hour. One thing we can compare that to is Wahoo, for example, the computer company, made a claim that their front-end computer compared to a Garmin is actually 3.5 watts faster or at 40 kilometers an hour. So it's a very, very small difference aerodynamically, but when you take into consideration all of the additional benefits from the new Tarmac SL7 frame, across a lot of simulations we did on different courses for riders, the Tarmac SL7 continually outperformed the Venge from that perspective. So speed-wise, still the same speed or a bit faster, but there is a very, very small aero difference between the two frames. There's a Tarmac Pro Shimano Ultegra Di2 build. So this is again with our FACT 10R frame. You have the Aerofly 2 bar with a Tarmac Pro stem, and then the Roval Rapide CL wheels, and a full Shimano Ultegra Di2 group. This does not have a power meter like the SRAM Pro model does, but it is a complete Shimano group on this bike. Then we have a Tarmac Expert Ultegra Di2. There's a couple things that Rasmus can probably follow up on in terms of the model line that's actually available in your market. So I don't want to show anything that's not, but there's two different Expert models. There's one with an Ultegra Di2 group, and then there's one that's just an Ultegra mechanical group, and those are different wheels. So you'll have to probably follow up on which one's actually available in your market. A couple different colorways here. All right. And then one thing that I want to touch on quickly here is that there's something pretty cool that we did to give everyone a sneak peek of the bike itself. Again, the bike is embargoed until the 28th, so that means no speaking about anything we just mentioned today. But on the 23rd, we are releasing a small Easter egg in our ride app, which allows riders to put the Tarmac SL7 in their living room or bedroom or wherever they are in an AR experience, so alternative reality essentially, to create a 3D model just sitting on your carpet. And it's pretty cool because it's an Easter egg for riders who are in the ride app and allows them to check out the bike without much more context. And again, this is the kind of the only thing that you can speak to, but not mention all the technical details that we just spoke through today.
And we should also clarify, yeah, the embargo again. So all the different time zones over here. What I said is the Central European time, which is Sweden, of course, and then we have Finland 7 o'clock, Iceland, not sure, sorry about the time difference, but 6 o'clock Central European time. Cool, thanks Cam. Hello.
So now I'm here for questions. Any other fun facts you guys want to hear? I'm in the Corona hotspot of the world, so I can answer questions about that too. It's not doing so well here.
Cam has been home for, what is it, over 100 days now?
Yeah, we started in the middle of March, and we're probably gonna be here till next March at this point. Who knows? Not ideal.
Do you get any time to? I have a question. The first time you got off on the production Tarmac SL7, what was your initial reactions?
It's something that if you look at a couple different generations of product, you know, you always think that, okay, we've maybe hit a level where the next changes are going to be difficult to either perceive or feel. And I'm continually blown away by every time we really try to push the bar further and create something that's truly a performance benefit. And it's something that you can perceive when you get on the bike. And I really do believe that this new bike takes all of the good things from Venge or from Tarmac and brings them into one bike here. And I've now ridden, since we started, my first field test bike I had for almost a year, and then now I've had my current one for almost a year, so a considerable amount of time on this bike, and I'm still blown away every time I get on it now. But Rasmus, what's your thought? You got to hop on one of these back in the spring, and now you have one sitting behind you. So
Yeah, it's fast, and I'm not a roadie, but this thing makes every bike park rat even a roadie. Like, haven't shaved my legs yet, but it's fast. It's super fun. The first time I got on the SL6, I was screaming. So yeah, that kind of.
yeah, and one thing too that speaks to how much we truly believe in this new bike is that moving forward, Venge will not be a bike in our line. We feel like providing that bike to any of our riders or athletes is a compromise, and it's not a better product for them to be on. So moving forward, you'll see Tarmac SL7 being raced at Strade Bianche. Julian Alaphilippe will be hopefully defending his title there on the new bike. And moving forward from then on, our World Tour athletes will only be on the Tarmac SL7 because they also recognize and see the true performance benefit for this new bike.
So I think if, like, not right now is the time to ask the professor of the Tarmac all the questions you have. Maybe it has to sink in a little bit. If you have any questions later on, you can always email me or anyone else, your market developers, your sales reps. But I think that's a good way to go. Email me. Cool. Should we wrap it up then?
Yeah, awesome. Thank you again for having me, and I'm sure I'll have some questions forwarded along to me if you guys have anything else. And do you have any pictures to slide of all the different color schemes? I actually do not. That's something that within the next couple of days here, your market developers or the team over there should be able to provide you with sell sheets, because those are all being populated at the moment. What's the difference between Rapide CLX and Rapide CL on Pro model? So yeah, we actually have not formally launched the Roval Rapide CL wheels. Similar to what we have in the line right now with the Roval CLX and the Roval CL series, there's a hub change. So your rim profile remains the same, but as you move down the line, the hub will be the biggest difference there between the two different models. So you go from our developed kind of arrow-shaped hub on the CLX wheels to an aftermarket DT hub for the CL wheels. The spokes remain the same though for both models.
Cool. Good question, Jonas. Here you go. Now we're getting questions.
Yep. How about the tubeless compatibility with the new Rapide wheels? So the new Rapide wheels are not tubeless compatible. They are tube type wheels. So all the models that you see for Tarmac will be tube type tires. So the S-Works models are running the turbo cottons, and then Pro or S-Works turbos. The biggest reason is that as a brand, we obviously are very interested and focused on better understanding tubeless for the road, or high pressure tubeless. And we spent a lot of time developing the rapid air tire, for example, that are still compatible with our CLX50s and 32s and 64s. But in developing this new wheel set, there were some pretty difficult targets that we wanted to hit in terms of weight and performance. And we felt like in order to become tubeless compatible with the new wheels, there were going to be some compromises that we weren't comfortable taking yet. So it's something that we are continually evaluating and working hard to create something that's, when it's ready, it's right for the market and right for the rider at the best possible performance. So, but for right now, those are not tubeless compatible.
So is tubeless kind of off the table, Cam?
If you want tubeless, then the Roval CLX50s are still in the line. Those are still tubeless ready and can be run tubeless. Or on the expert model, if your market's bringing that in, the DTR 470, those alloy wheels are tubeless compatible as well. You just will not see the new Roval Rapide wheels being tubeless compatible at the moment.
Cool. All right. So if you have any more questions, shoot them my way, and I'll make sure to forward them to Cam.
Awesome.
Thanks for joining us, and I wish you all a good night.
Awesome. Thank you, everyone. Take care.
Cool. Thank you. Bye.